Hello, welcome guys. Welcome back to Zodiac Trading. So today we're going to discuss a little bit about inflation and also the banking crisis. And then we are going to discuss why Mr. Powell is very difficult to handle both problems at the same time. And as the situation got worse, the US economy is going to be out of control. And there are many signals right now we are looking at. And it is proven that the financial system, on the other hand, it's not stronger and it has less liquidity. And in the same time, it's more fragile than ever before. And the first thing we're going to talk about is inflation. So when we're looking at the inflation, it's a bit like you need a bit of inflation to keep the economy, to keep the games, playing, to keep the economy system to functioning properly. So you kind of need that inflation, but in the same time, as a central banker, you have to, tame, control this inflation to prevent that inflation becomes the opposite force, the downside force that's going to damaging the economy system. Because sometimes when you have too much inflation, you have too much of financial leverage in the banking system, and then in the same time, inflation will kind of drive up, kind of improve the cost of commodities, and that's going to create a stress and burden for daily life. As you may see, if you go out the street and you do some of the shopping, you find that with the wages going higher and all this inflation, and you could certainly feel that everything is becoming more and more expensive. And then what's going to happen is you're going to stop consuming. You're going to try to save more money instead of spend more money. So when you decided that you're going to save more money, you're going to, spend less amount of money. That also means the company is going to make less sales. So it will be very difficult for companies to maintain expanding because everyone's thinking to reduce the consumption. So that is the problem. If you have a hiking inflation and that's going to happen. And as an authority, of course, you can try to put additional liquidity and to put some easing. So you can say, for example, you can lower the interest rate and then to bail out these kind of banks, and in the same time trying to fuel the bubble of the stocks. For example, like S&P could, I don't know what's in the head of Mr. Powell, but you can do that. Like, if you are a very weak central bankers, you can do precisely just what Alan Greenspan was doing. You can fuel the bubble. You can bail out the banks. You can basically, provide a protective put, or we call this as like Alan Greenspan put. That every time the stock goes down, you say something nice, you do some easing, so stock market went up. So that's the case. You can, of course, you can do that, and it will kind of procrastinate, postpone that kind of problem until it's a problem. You can do that only if the problem is not big enough. And one day that problem is going to grow, and it's not going to stop growing, and it's going to continue until it cannot. Okay, so that's the case. I've heard a lot of financiers and Wall Street and mainstream media be saying that the banking crisis itself is a deleveraging, and then everyone is so panicked about the raising of the interest rate. Everyone's saying, okay, right now we're having these, quarter of basis point, we're having a 25 basis point increase, but the financial system is not going to be able to take another percentage of rise. For me, they are just bullshitting because they just want the central bank to bail them out repeatedly. They want a central bank to inject extra liquidity so they could start selling everything, because as a financial institutions, you want to get out from this mess. And because you are financial institutions, it's not like you and me. It's not like you're trading, I don't know, like maybe $100,000 account that you can just sell every stocks that very easily and then walk away clean. So that's not the case because your financial institutions, you have a lot of bets, you have a big portfolio. So that means when you're selling stocks, you need huge amount of liquidity. You need some other firm to buy your shares. You need a counterparty to take who are stupid enough to take your bets, so you can get out of the way. You can just escape with full amount of cash, and then you're protected. I think that explains the fundamental drive and the fundamental motive behind all these reducing interest rate kind of nonsense, because we all know back in 2013 the Federal Reserve was trying to increase the interest rate, and then Janet Yellen was doing all these, and then that's creating kind of stress. But then when they started to raise interest rate above that 2% level, and then you start seeing, that effect isn't as much, and then you have a trade war happening. I think that's where Donald Trump puts Powell on the authority, and Powell becomes the Fed chairman in 2018. And he decided that he's not going to raise interest rate; he's going to reduce that interest rate, and he's basically going to another QE thing and another easing thing. So we should have been like the normalization should happen during that 2013 to 2015, but it was stopped abrupt. Like it was the entire raising interest rate procedure was being stopped forcibly because of the change of leadership. And then Powell doesn't know what he was doing clearly, and then creating such a mess in the financial system. So I think that's the case. We all need a normalization, and then as long as it goes, many banks and financial institutions may feel the stress, and that is precisely what we need, because we need the banks and financial institutions to take responsibility and the consequences of their own actions, because you can as you can see from SVB, as you can see from many banks right now in the United States and also in Swiss, they are operating irresponsibly, and they are breaking rules, and they have zero risk management because they have not hedged their own risk, and they are putting their depositors' money in pure risk because they are believing these, the rates is going to you're gonna have a private trading, long ago. I was joking on these private trade, because long ago that Goldman Sachs start the early of this year. I think it started from December 2022, and then the Goldman Sachs was actively been saying that we will have a private trade, and we're going to expect that the Federal Reserve is going to reduce that in interest rate, and it's going to have go through that easing procedure, and all these nonsense and all these BS. And then right now there is no private trade whatsoever. You're gonna just see a bunch of financiers, financial gangsters trying to sell everything, but trying to tell another story, so you will end up buying their bets. Yeah, you will end up believing that the Fed is going to reduce interest rate. So basically, that means the Wall Street is trying to fight the Fed. Okay, so in the entire history, you see that during these rising interest rate kind of uh, cycle, you start seeing this battle between the banks, the financial institutions, and the central banks. You start seeing Wall Street, hedge funds. You start seeing people. They're, finally they are going to take some, adult training. They are going to get some of the adult education. Well, I call this financial adult 101. that you have to pay for your own risk, that you pay for your own mistake. And I believe that it's the whole fundamental and the whole point of free market, right? But right now, the banking problem, the the fact that the central banks are trying to bail out all these banks without saying the word bail out, and also these they are injecting tons of liquidity, and the fact that they are just trying to bail out these bankers has basically, destroying the fundamental and the basic principle of the free market model, and it breaks this mechanism until it's not working. Okay, so that will be a huge crisis of capitalism. Think about, there are certain history back in 1930, back in earlier, we were talking about around like, 20th century. We're talking about a lot of 19th century to 20th century. There are lots of trust, big group of these giant companies. I believe in the near future we are going to see that kind of conglomerate gathering together. We're going to see huge companies merge together. We are going to see big banks take over small banks, and then they become huge bank. And then you start questioning, hey, I thought we are not going to have, big trusts. We are not supposed to have a monopoly. We're not supposed to have that. And then they're going to tell you, nah, we're doing this because it's a sci-fi, it's a systemic important financial institution. So that's why we have to bail out. So that's why we have to merge these banks together. That's why we're going to have a giant bank on this planet. We're going to have a very big financial institution that's dominating our economy system, and that is because our the fundamental of our right like our regulation system is creating something serious wrong. Okay, so I think that is what the banking crisis currently what that crisis has got us into. Is basically, with this banking crisis, people start to accept the reality of big banks can swallow up smaller banks, and they will become a huge bank in the name of commercial operation. It's the same thing. So okay, today the government trying to sell you a completely different theory. So we are not, because of the fact that you are not allowing us to bail out the banks. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna force a big bank to buy out a small bank in a price we both agreed. But that us is not you or me. It is a few from this government. So they was going to try to sell you a theory that because you do not want the government to use your own taxpayers' money, so that's just use the big banks' money, so they could just merge all these smaller bank. It's the same thing. They become the monopoly. There's not going to be any lawful competition or whatsoever, and these banks are going to be again bigger than too big to fail, and we are going to bear the price because we won't allow the government to use taxpayers' money, so they have to use a commercial plan to merge that banks. So what I'm seeing is this is a true banking crisis. We are stepping into a deeper recession, and the Fed is not going to. I highly suspect that Fed is going to proceed raising interest rate, because right now Powell is having to face so much pressure from the Democrats, from the banks and the huge financial institutions, and also from the treasury person, Janet Yellen. He was facing a lot of stress. I don't know if he's going to continue raising interest rate. Last time I was convinced, but right now I think there actually might be some opportunity for them to, probably not easing rate, but they're gonna have to stop raising interest rate for a while to calm everything down, and then we start raising interest rate again. I still don't think that pirate thing is legit. So I think that's what a banking crisis is going to give us. It's going to give us a more fragile financial system because they are encouraging a bailout with big banks' money. That means that is a merge, and to try to use this crisis as a facade to cover and to hide their true intention and their agenda inside of their in their operations. So I think for every investors that you have to understand what situation we're at. It's a very chaotic financial society that we're living in, and these banks and large institutions are going to be bigger and bigger until more and more individual like us understand what's going on and then question constantly, and that we still have a very small chances to win this battle. Otherwise, we will be just another victim, and our next generation, our kids, our offspring, will suffer greater because of these huge monopoly system. So thank you guys for watching for my video. If you like the content I'm sharing, please subscribe and share to, and please do share this to other your close friends and family members that you care of. We need to wake up more people. We need to let more people understand what is truly going on in our capitalism society. We need to know that the free spirit and also the free fundamental of the market it's right now being uh, stealing from us. Right now it's being diminishing. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next episode. Bye.